Intellectual property theft is a funny business, he said, beating a hornet's nest like a piñata. On an unrelated note, footage for this week's episode will be composed of home movies of my dogs. In all legal seriousness, it does seem to depend as much on cultural as logical systems, and the line's blurriest in the creative realms. Appropriation becomes an infinitely nuanced grayscale, and cultural rules evolved in the absence of hard delineations. There's an odd divide between theater and film, given how many similarities the two share, increasing with technological advancement. We're fine with the same play being staged endlessly by different directors and actors, but the only time you ever see this in film is, well, via theater. What if someone lacking the postmodern experimental angle of Gus Van Sant said they wanted to do a remake of Citizen Kane? Well, we'd all roll our eyes, especially now when it's in vogue to see Hollywood as a creative wasteland. And what if that person was going to use Orson Welles' script word for word just because they thought they had a fresh take on the material? Well, people would think it was stupid, but why? I mean, from a purely artistic point of view, why do we allow entire festivals to operate on the endless restaging of 37 plays, but won't accept a director taking a new shot at Casablanca? Movies once made are fixed points, not to be altered for their own sake. And there are logical reasons for this. Movies are increasingly ubiquitous. If you want to see a specific play, you'd have to wait for someone to stage it. You can't just grab it on DVD. And competition is less of an issue. Maybe two big companies staging the same play in the same city would run into problems, but for the most part, you're just filling one theater. So if someone wants to stage the same thing 2 towns over, there isn't the same potential for draining the audience as you get in 2 films if they were directly competing either in wide release or via DVD. But the stigma goes beyond good business sense. It just kind of seems ingrained. We've decided that films occupy a certain cultural space that precludes this sort of freedom of appropriation. The infrastructure isn't there, even though just between the cinematographer and the editor and the art director, you can imagine that the potential for reinterpretation is even bigger. Mostly as a cultural taboo, it polices itself. People scoff at cash-ins and trend followers, and unless they can offer up something unique, they languish. People are incredibly quick these days to call every new release a rip-off of something. But there have been times in the past when studios have gotten aggressive. An infamous example is The Last Shark by prolific Italian director, which is kind of redundant, Enzo G. Castellari. Jaws is hailed as the progenitor of the summer blockbuster, so it's unsurprising it inspired a glut of killer animal movies. That's where that strange gray area of what constitutes misappropriation comes up. Orca, piranha, the jaws of death, grizzly, tintorera, alligator up from the depths, they all passed whatever tests they needed to, but The Last Shark didn't. When its American distributor tried to release it, Universal successfully sued it out of theaters and of ever getting a home video release.
There's something fishy here.
You're right, kids. Jaws was doing great business. People loved it, critics loved it, and it continued to do that business despite the aforementioned softer ripoffs. Why would Universal take it out on The Last Shark alone 6 years later? Did it just have the misfortune of having an example made of it? Admittedly, its similarities are, shall we say, a little more on the nose than the rest, but they could have gone with a more high-profile whipping boy. No, there's only one explanation for this. Universal was scared of the competition The Last Shark would give them because it was clearly the superior shark movie. Don't believe me? Well, that's good, because I just happen to have an exhaustive list of comparisons right here. Right off the bell, we got a 1-2 punch from The Last Shark. Blockbusters are built on spectacle, and credit to Steve, we got a naked chick within a couple of minutes, but she's still in the metaphorical baggy sweatsuit of darkness and murky water. Her last act is a shaky Lord's prayer, making it clear even if she makes it out, she never put out free marriage. The Last Shark, meanwhile, amps up exhibition and intimacy with a fetishistic windsurfing montage. Sexy. The victim in Jaws being dragged around like a ragdoll was shocking and effective, but there's one device that can top it. Starts with an E, rhymes with implosion. And let's talk about music. Sure, John Williams' minimalist theme has become iconic, but dollars and cents this thing with me. For the constantly rising price of admission, Jaws is giving you what, like 2 notes? It's the nouvelle cuisine of film scores, and it has no place in a blockbuster, damn it. Stack it up next to this. And suddenly you're humming a different tune. And let's say hello to our protagonists. From the Jaws camp, Martin Brody, family man, recent appointee as sheriff of Amity Island, and, let's be honest, tired American cliche. Who needs another strong-arm lawman telling the nation's children that heroism is dogmatic adherence to a corruptible system? We need free thinkers and avant-garde attitudes. So, from Port Harbor, say hello to Peter Benton, family man and fiction writer, teaching your youngins that the pen is mightier than the sword, though neither is mightier than explosive charges, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Brody and Benton both get involved with the mystery of a missing victim and run up against political figure who won't close beaches due to tourism industry. I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure The Last Shark just copied and pasted Larry Vaughn into their movie and called him William Wells.
Well, what else could have done that to that girl? Blow the belly?
What makes you so sure it's a shark? Could have been a prop, couldn't it?
He's breaking the fourth wall. But I gotta give this one to Wells. Well, Vaughn basically tells Brody to go fuck himself, re killer shark. Wells jumps into action with a massive shark-proof net surrounding the beach. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a leader we can rely on. And while the 4th of July weekend provides a acceptable reason for Vaughn to be so bull-shark-headed, The Last Shark again outdoes it with a big windsurfing regatta, which promises, at the very least, a lot more of this. On the hunt for answers, and a shark, where would Benton be without his teammate proxies? First, his primary foil. And what Jaws ripoff would be complete without a corresponding Quint? He's one of the most endearing bits of Jaws iconography. So how does Vic Morrow fill those ample briny boots? Well, by settling on just one accent, Robert Shaw grounded his character and ruined his mystique. Morrow, meanwhile, inhabits a swampy malaise of inflection that never really settles down, giving him credence as a worldly fisherman who has seen and presumably killed it all. Recall Shaw's famous speech.
I don't want no volunteers. I don't want no mates. There's too many captains on this island. $10,000 for me by myself. For that you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
Dramatic, ominous, hopelessly vague. Here's Morrow.
The base of the head. And below the dorsal, you have to aim for one or the other of the two areas. Because the great white shark, you cannot scare off. Not this animal. Especially because he's had his taste of human flesh.
Real solid practical advice. A literal teach a man to fish scenario. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a half-crazed sea dog we can rely on. Together, he and Benton set off to find the man-eating great white.
Hey there! Look!
Alright, I guess Jaws had a better-looking shark. The regatta starts up, but in a tragic miscalculation, Wells ordered not the shark-proof barrier, but the delicious chum-flavored barrier. The swimmer getting killed in Jaws is handled with aplomb. The Last Shark, your rebuttal? Very good. So good they need to replay it in movie. Jaws, bigger than the average shark. The Last Shark, bigger than the average shark with Medusa's gaze. And let's talk about the presentation of said shark. Jaws' shark puppet didn't work so well, so they hid it most of the time. The Last Shark had similar issues, though they were much less afraid of flaunting it anyway. But their solution was to go to a lot of stock footage with no effort made to color correct any of it into matching. The result is an impressionistic montage of vague and horrific sharkiness that makes the animal mythic and almost supernatural. And smart. Jaws exhibited purely animalistic predatory behavior, but his cousin here intentionally causes an underwater cave-in on our heroes and later drags one of them around with a rope.
There's only one shark in this whole world big enough to cause that kind of damage.
The last one? The big reward put up for the shark in Jaws initiated a mad world of marauding mariners. Their tactics were lackluster. They were just fishing. Compare the crazy plans concocted by the Last Shark's would-be heroes. First, the dumb kids get together and decide to go after it with a classic bait and shoot. They evidently didn't think it through. God damn, you kids are dumb. Peter's daughter barely escapes and is rushed to hospital, where Wells once again asserts his no-bullshit political platform.
Dad, I only wanted to help you.
And Benton has a tearful moment at his daughter's bedside.
Kill it! Kill it!
Oh my god, every night with this. They then endeavor to somehow concoct a plan even stupider than hanging bait and screaming. Helicopter, check. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2? Did not think this through at all. Oof. Well, it was how he wanted to go. In the grand finale, the last shark kills Morrow and then drags a group of people on a pier out to sea. A quick rescue by boat gets everyone to safety, but Benton, who has to go toe-to-dermal denticle with his nemesis. He starts by hauling Morrow's body up onto the pier. Now, Mythbusters made it clear that the whole oxygen tank thing would never have worked, so the last shark depicts a much more genuine scenario because Morrow just happened to have explosives with a detonator on him. So already, shooting an oxygen tank, yawn, detonating your friend's corpse. And what say you, protagonists?
Smile, you son of a...
Yeah, sharks can't smile. I guess you could argue they can't be damned either, but at least the latter encourages metaphysical debate instead of anatomical misinformation. Either way, kablamo! Frothing font of ugly gore for Martin Police Chief Brody. Neat surgical bisection for Peter Intellectual Benton. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I rest my case. However you feel about The Last Shark, I think it makes a strong argument against Universal's lawsuit. It was an unquestionably opportunistic venture, but so what? Was this going to hurt Jaws' business, especially 6 years after the fact? You know what watching The Last Shark made me want to do? Even if I hadn't wanted to do this review as a side-by-side comparison, it made me want to go watch Jaws. I'm of the firm belief that the best creative communities arrive from pure freedom of expression, even to the point of outright thievery, not just because they invite reinterpretation, but because they usually police themselves. It's a very silly thing to say because, of course, Universal isn't thinking about that. They're thinking in business terms. It's in their interest to keep the market undersaturated because Jaws the Revenge was on the way. Tell me that outranked The Last Shark. And no, you'll never be able to convince studios with appeals to artistic freedom, but film culture where concerns intellectual copyright is making it easier for them to tighten their grip. It's a very weird, vague line. I remember the first time I noticed it in 1998 with two Disney DreamWorks headbutts, Ants in a Bug's Life, Deep Impact, and Armageddon. Genres and trends rise and fall, and we're okay with that. We don't call Iron Man a Spider-Man ripoff or Battle Los Angeles a Skyline ripoff. But we pick a line that we won't cross, usually somewhere around here. And I say just cross it. I mean, among other things, it means I can say film is not about what it's about how it's about it, and claim I made it up. Let's just open our hearts and say postmodernism, I accept you. The idea that art can't just be repurposing went down the urinal in 1917, but there's still a stigma around it, especially in film. And this is in the age of mashups and fan edits and fan films and YouTube. Okay, The Last Shark isn't the right provocative champion for a paradigm shift, but it is representative of the way creative stifling can be hidden behind perfectly reasonable appeals to intellectual property and the sanctity of creative attribution. It's a knee-jerk reaction. If you look objectively at the issue, I think you'll find there's nothing at all wrong with The Last Shark. It deserves the same unbiased chance that Jaws got. Universal would beg to differ. I say we need to start being more open-minded to even the most blatant of these ripoffs. Stop worrying about what it's about and start caring about how it's about it.